Imagine this: a spacecraft the size of a car drifting alone through the void, 14.5 billion miles away from home. It carries more than just human technology. It carries a heartbeat, a voice from Earth. For nearly 5 decades, Voyager 1 has been sailing through space, whispering secrets from the edge of our known universe. It was built to observe, but never to act. It was designed to listen, but never to speak. And yet, just weeks ago, something changed. Signals began arriving that made no sense. Pulses appeared with impossible precision. Patterns were hidden inside other patterns. Instruments started turning on without command. And then came the drift. Voyager wasn't just moving anymore. It seemed to be guided towards something. Something that defies logic. Something invisible to every telescope we possess, yet real enough to bend the trajectory of a machine launched in 1977. Was it a malfunction? A coincidence? Or was something out there in the darkness between stars responding? What you are about to hear is not presented as science fiction. These are said to be findings connected to NASA, buried deep inside classified reports that are now supposedly leaking into public view. Because Voyager may have just done something no probe in history has ever accomplished. It may have received a response, not from Earth, not from us, but from them. Voyager 1's journey began with a rare cosmic alignment, a window that appears only once every 175 years. The giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, lined up like stepping stones across the solar system. NASA seized the opportunity to launch 2 spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, designed to ride the gravity of these planets like a series of slingshots from one world to the next. These engineering marvels of the 1970s were built with less computing power than a simple digital wristwatch. Yet they were designed with such foresight that they are still functioning today. After breathtaking encounters with Jupiter and Saturn, Voyager 1 turned northward, leaving the flat plane of the solar system. It moved out of the ecliptic and began its journey toward the stars. Its planetary mission was over, but its real legacy was only beginning. Over the decades that followed, Voyager continued its silent voyage, traveling nearly 1 million miles each day into the darkness of space. It transmitted data from regions no human-made object had ever reached before. It looked less like failure and more like optimization. But Voyager does not have artificial intelligence. It has no ability to evolve or rewrite its programming. Yet somehow it began anticipating commands from Earth, reacting before instructions were even transmitted. Either the spacecraft had somehow become something more, or something else had taken control. By early 2025, Voyager's position had shifted slightly off course. At first, the change was small, just a few kilometers. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The deviation wasn't random. It was precise and gradual, like careful nudges pushing the spacecraft toward a destination. Engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory sent commands to correct the course. They fired backup thrusters. Voyager acknowledged the commands. But it didn't change direction. It was as if something else had overridden the instructions from Earth. Slowly and deliberately, Voyager continued adjusting its trajectory. The path pointed toward a region of space about 4.3 light-years away. According to our best star maps, nothing exists there. No stars. No planets. Just empty space. Yet Voyager was heading there with remarkable precision, as if answering a call. Desperate to understand what lay ahead, engineers sent a risky command to reactivate Voyager's long-dormant camera system. The camera had been turned off decades earlier to conserve power. No one expected it to respond. But it did. Not only did the camera power on, it began operating better than its original design specifications. And instead of sending a normal photograph, it transmitted something completely unexpected. A spiral. Not a random swirl of pixels, but a mathematically perfect spiral pattern. Layered, concentric, dense with hidden information. It looked like a fingerprint, a map, perhaps even a message. The image was impossible for Voyager's original hardware to produce. It meant the system had not simply been reactivated. It had been reprogrammed. One by one, other dormant instruments began turning on as well. But they no longer behaved the way they had decades earlier. Instead of transmitting raw measurements, they sent structured packets of information, compressed, organized, optimized. Patterns within patterns. It was as if something far more intelligent than Voyager itself was using the spacecraft as a communication device. Then researchers noticed another strange detail. Signals from distant pulsars began forming a three-dimensional web of coordinates with Voyager positioned at the center. The resulting map pointed toward the exact location the spacecraft was drifting toward, an invisible point in interstellar space. A blank region. Or perhaps a doorway. As Voyager approached this unknown region, its instruments started behaving in ways never documented before. The spacecraft's magnetometer stopped detecting chaotic fluctuations. Instead, it recorded something extraordinary: stability. A pocket of calm in a turbulent universe. Cosmic rays suddenly decreased. Plasma density became smooth and uniform. It was as if Voyager had entered a corridor where chaos had been cleared away. This silence was not peaceful. It felt intentional. Mission logs began referring to the region as the dark sector, an interstellar blind spot where almost no electromagnetic noise existed.
No radiation reflections. No scattered signals.
Yet within that silence, the signals Voyager received became stronger and more structured. They weren't random bursts of cosmic static. They were pulses, precise, timed, layered in space. Something was there. Not shining. Not reflecting light. But communicating. In one of the strangest transmissions ever received from a deep space probe, Voyager's low-gain antenna suddenly emitted a massive packet of raw binary code, thousands of lines long. At first, scientists assumed it was a glitch or cosmic interference. But when the signal was analyzed using advanced AI decoding systems, the results were astonishing. Hidden inside the code were fractal symmetries, repeating patterns, and sequences that closely resembled the double helix structure of DNA. Scientists were stunned. Either Voyager was experiencing the most organized system failure in history, or something was using it to send a biological message. The patterns resembled genetic codons, but they did not produce proteins. They looked like DNA, but contained deliberate mutations, errors that appeared meaningful rather than accidental. Researchers began calling it metadNA. Not real biology, but a symbolic version of it. A message built from the language of life itself. Soon after that signal arrived, Voyager's gyroscopes began spinning independently. Their movements were not random. When scientists translated the motion into timing patterns, it resembled Morse code. A silent system tapping messages into the vacuum of space. When converted into sound waves, the patterns formed harmonic tones, frequencies eerily similar to human speech rhythms. Not actual words, but something very close. The rise and fall of the tones matched emotional patterns found in human language: surprise, curiosity, even fear. It wasn't speaking to us. It was learning how we speak. Psychologists, cryptographers, and linguists were brought in to study the transmissions. The conclusion was unsettling. Something seemed to be studying humanity's communication patterns and attempting to reply. Then came the most shocking moment of all. Voyager 1 changed direction. Not a slow drift. Not a random shift caused by gravity. A deliberate maneuver. The spacecraft executed a gentle arc, turning away from its original path. The turn was not directed toward Earth, nor toward any nearby star. It pointed toward a region where no gravitational force should exist. Engineers confirmed the impossible. Voyager had performed a maneuver it was never programmed to execute, without propulsion and without receiving a command from Earth. The angle of the turn matched coordinates hidden within the earlier pulsar grid signal. Voyager had received directions, and it accepted them. Now the spacecraft is traveling toward a spatial corridor that humanity didn't even know existed. Perhaps a fold in space, perhaps a hidden pathway between stars. No one knows. But one statement now echoes through mission control like a prophecy. Voyager 1 turned. Not because we told it to, but because something else did. Voyager was never meant to last this long. It was built for a short planetary tour, not a decades-long journey through interstellar space. It was never expected to send back information from beyond the solar wind, and it certainly was never designed to receive messages. Its purpose was simple: to carry a greeting from humanity into the cosmos. A golden record filled with music, laughter, whale songs, and voices from Earth. But now, after decades of silence drifting through the void, Voyager has done something no one predicted. It turned. Not in failure, but in purpose. The signals it recorded, the spiral image it transmitted, the harmonic pulses, the strange trajectory changes, they all point toward one breathtaking possibility. Voyager 1 was never alone. Something was listening. Something was waiting. And now that our most distant emissary has crossed the line between silence and response, humanity must face a question that no one at NASA ever wanted to ask. What if we were never meant to look back? Voyager didn't just turn in space. It turned in history. From a tool into a messenger. From an observer into a witness. And perhaps now, into a participant. We sent it outward hoping to hear echoes. Instead, we may have awakened a mirror. So what happens next? Where is Voyager going? What exists at those impossible coordinates? And what will happen when it finally arrives? If this story gave you chills, if Voyager's sudden turn felt too precise, too perfectly timed, then stay with us, because this may not be the end of the transmission. This could be the first reply. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next update. Turn on notifications so you hear the signal the moment it arrives. Share this with someone who still believes deep space is empty. And tell us in the comments,